right, welcome everyone. Great to see you. If you have the ability to turn your cameras on, that's always really helpful for me. Just as a presenter, it's just good to see people's face. It feels like I'm talking to people instead of talking to a computer. It also helps me if I can see head nods and those kinds of things. So if you're in a place where you have the ability to turn your camera on, I would really appreciate you know the love on the camera. So. Thank you guys for being here today on a Monday morning. I know that it's always a stretch to get your day started early. Um, well, sorry, I'm getting a text message. Hold on, give me just a second. Somebody's trying to get in. All right, sorry about that. All right, let's get rolling. So, today what I want to talk about is I call this the entrepreneurial agent. And so the purpose of what I'm going to be talking about today is to identify the difference between an entrepreneur and an employee within real estate specifically, so that you as an individual within this industry can set reasonable expectations for yourself about what type of freedom or what freedom looks like to you, what you might actually be able to attain or experience within real estate. And so, I don't know about you guys, but I would argue that most people get into real estate to be an entrepreneur. I know when I got into it, that was kind of the vision that I had. That was the word I used for myself, right? We want autonomy. We want control over our schedule. We want a certain level of income, which is usually a lot higher than where we came from. I was a teacher and I came to real estate. I wanted to make a lot more money than a teacher. But ultimately, we want some type of freedom. Right? You guys with me on that? So, um, I would argue that while, most of us, if not all of us, we're independent contractors. And while we're entrepreneurial or entrepreneur adjacent, very few realtors actually step into the position of an entrepreneur. And so what do I mean by that? Well, I believe that there's a key distinction between the mindset of an entrepreneur and an employee. There's also distinctions between the results that are created by an entrepreneur versus an employee. And ultimately, it's our relationship to the results that we're getting, that determine our satisfaction with our work. And so I'm going to dive a little bit more into this, but just to kind of hit on that point, when we're expecting a certain result and we don't get that result, so we're expecting the results of an entrepreneur, but we're not getting them, we tend to become disillusioned with what it is that we're doing, and it creates discomfort, it creates anxiety, it creates unhappiness, right, within our business. And so let's dive into this a little bit. So let's start by defining what it means to be an entrepreneur and then defining what it means to be an employee. Now, these definitions are debatable, but these are the definitions that I pulled off of, ChatGPT. So, an entrepreneur is someone who identifies opportunities, takes initiative, and assumes all the risk to create, manage, and grow a business or project. They're driven by innovation, problem solving, and the desire to turn ideas into tangible value. Entrepreneurs are often resourceful, adaptable, and resilient. They embrace challenges, learn from failure, and continuously seek ways to improve and scale their ventures. All right, let's just go through we'll come back to that. Let's go through the definition of employee. Got it from the same place. Once again, debatable, but good enough. Being an employee generally means working for an organization or an individual in exchange for compensation, such as a salary, wages, or benefits. Employees typically perform tasks or services as outlined in their job description and are often part of a larger organizational structure. So, as a whole, like I said, those could be debatable, right? But as a whole, I think they're pretty good, right? Wouldn't you guys agree? Decent definitions of the two. So, so I would ask you this question, and you don't have to answer out loud. Which one resonates with you more? And you don't have to even have a clear answer yet, but just kind of think about that a little bit. And it's not that either one is right or wrong. Like I feel like in our country, maybe specifically, there's this idea that, if you're an entrepreneur, you're the golden child, right? There's something special about being an entrepreneur. And the reality is, some people would prefer to be employees and some people would prefer to be entrepreneurs, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And so there's nothing wrong with either way. The purpose of this whole talk here is just to identify the differences between the two and then align with which one, or align with which one resonates with you more, and then set reasonable expectations around what results you're going to get depending on the position that you're in, so that the results that you get are in alignment with what you expect, which ultimately means you get to enjoy your work more. So hopefully this is starting to kind of come together here a little bit. But all right, I want to share a little chart that I put together, and I got to be honest, I'm not I don't do a lot with like Chat GPT and all that kind of stuff. But yesterday I kind of went crazy with it, and I actually like it. I was able to create this chart in like 5 minutes on Chat GPT. All right, so I'm going to pull this up here real quick. So I'm kind of proud of myself for that. All right, so this might be hard to read, but what this is it's just a difference between an employee and an entrepreneur, and their mindset, their attitude towards different things. And so I'm just going to go through this really quickly, just to give kind of the highlights of it. So when we talk about security versus risk, employees value job security, predictability, right? Especially with their paycheck, and stability. Entrepreneurs are comfortable with uncertainty. They embrace risk. Direction and control. An employee looks for guidance from others, whereas an entrepreneur creates their own direction. They have their own vision. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to create their own vision. Work hours. For an employee, it's usually pretty set. Not always, but much more. There's more parameters around it. And values that work-life separation. When I'm not working, I want to be off. The entrepreneur is going to work until the job's done, and they have ownership for what they're doing. Income, an employee income is usually fixed, and an entrepreneur, it's as big as you want to make it. It's 100% up to you. Your results are based on your work. Responsibility. So an employee is responsible for a specific set of tasks or roles, and so it's a little more defined, right? It's a little more predictable, and for some people, that's really good. An entrepreneur is responsible for the whole dang thing, and that can be stressful. That can be exhausting. That can be a heavy burden to bear. Problem solving. Employees report the problem to leadership and let somebody else solve it, whereas the entrepreneur says, I'm going to fix this problem, and they're going to be more innovative. They're going to be more, they're looking to go find the solution. Learning and growth. Employees tend to learn what's required for the job, and they kind of stop there, whereas entrepreneurs or lifelong learners are constantly looking to, not that employees aren't, but entrepreneurs are really looking for ways to challenge themselves so that they can grow fast. Risk of failure. So employees tend to, be less or more risk averse, right? Especially because failure can mean you lose your job. Entrepreneurs see failure as a step forward, as an opportunity to learn and grow and get better. Motivation. Typically, and these are generalizations, right? Motivated by external rewards. We're all motivated by that. I don't know if I love this piece of it, but entrepreneurs tend to be more motivated, though, by internal drive, right? By that growth, by that forward momentum. Team and collaboration. So an employee tends to work within a team structure defined with clear definitions of how it operates, whereas an entrepreneur, kind of builds the team, runs the team, leads the team, sets those expectations. Employees tend to be more rule followers. Entrepreneurs tend to be more rule breakers. Once again, generalizations. And the time horizon, this is kind of a big one. Employees are more focused on like, what are my short-term goals? What do I need to get done this week, whatever. The entrepreneur is a visionary, right? So they're looking way out into the future. What do I need to be focused on, 5, 10, 15 steps down the line. So, all right. So I just wanted to share that with you. Um, so now that we've gone through, once again, neither's right or wrong. But now, once we've gone through that, which one resonates with you more? Like, which column do you tend to fall in? It's just a question to ask yourself. And there's a reason why I'm very passionate about this class. Once again, it comes back to our experience of our work. So when we want to work like an employee, but get the results of an entrepreneur, there's a disconnect. And it's in that disconnect that we become unhappy. If we want to work like an employee and we expect employee results, it's much easier to swallow that pill. But keep in mind that there's big differences between the types of results that we get between an employee and an entrepreneur, and they're not all good. It's not all good for being an entrepreneur. There's a lot to go into that. So I just want to kind of give like a quick rundown, just a summary of that whole thing. So what does it mean to be an employee in real estate? This is just some things that I've come up with. Number one, it means you're going to get leads from a source that you didn't create. So someone else is giving you the leads, right? You work those leads. You get paid a split determined by a team leader or by someone who is providing those leads. That could be Zillow, by the way. You have specific KPIs that you're supposed to hit. You follow a schedule that's laid out for you. You might have to come into the office when required. Income has a ceiling and it's subject to change. I have a friend who works for one of those brokerages that provides a bunch of leads. It's not EXP. And she works her tail off. She closed about 40 transactions last year and she made just over $100,000. That's a good living for some people. She doesn't have to pay for leads. She doesn't have to find the leads. She goes to work and she works and she makes her money. She's happy with that. Great. But the boundaries are set for her. So there's an income ceiling. So there's less time spending lead generating, more time putting people through a funnel. There's some autonomy, but you're really in more of a controlled environment. You can ask others to solve problems for you because you've got more people that are kind of providing stuff for you. So you don't have to take as much initiative. There's other people who will solve those problems for you. That's a good thing. It could be. If you underperform, though, you could lose your job. And then you're only responsible for your personal results. You're not running the team. You don't have to provide anything for anybody else. You just got to provide for, the boss or whoever it is that is giving you the leads. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur in real estate? Number one, long hours. There's no set hours. You work until the job is done. Failure is on you. Your wins and your failures, they all fall on you. You take full responsibility for everything that happens. There's no certainty in income. But the upside is only limited by your vision. So there's no guaranteed income, but the income could be gigantic. So there's less of a ceiling. There's a high risk exposure. So lots of opportunity to fail, lots of opportunity to lose money, those kinds of things. An entrepreneur in real estate gets to create their own vision and executes on that vision, has flexibility on direction of the company and daily activities, has autonomy, full autonomy over their own schedule. There has to be a high level of personal and professional accountability. Might even be responsible for others. So there's a lot of responsibility that's in place for an entrepreneur. They experience a high level of uncomfortableness very consistently. They fail a lot. They tend to lead others. And sometimes they might even intentionally create situations that promote lifelong growth. So both of these create different types of freedom. And freedom is one of those words that I hear in real estate a lot. What do you want? I want freedom. And everybody defines freedom differently. So these two things create, generally speaking, kind of a different type of freedom. So an employee is going to have less responsibility with limited autonomy, but they have certainty. That's a type of freedom. So my brother, I remember this years ago, and it really kind of blew my mind because I hadn't thought about it this way. And he's like, man, I would never do what you do. He said, I wake up at the same time every day. I go into work. I know exactly what I need to do. I execute. I come home. And when I'm home, work is gone. And I just get to be home and do whatever it is that I want to do. So there's work and there's not work. And that clear delineation between those two things was good enough for him. He didn't need the autonomy. He didn't want the autonomy. He didn't need, this unlimited earning potential. He was just happy with what he had. And for me, I was like, wow, there's something freeing about that. So once again, it's not that one is right or wrong. It's just different. And we have to adjust our expectations to what we're willing to do versus the outcome. So an entrepreneur, what freedom might look like for an entrepreneur is more responsibility with more autonomy and no guarantee, less predictability, but way more potential to create more or, go bigger. And so it's kind of this, forego one cookie now for two cookies tomorrow, right? And so there's a certain type of freedom that comes with that because, as an entrepreneur, you might be able to create your big vision. That's the thing that you just love. And that's a sense of freedom. Or you have enough money to where you never have to work again and you're only 40 years old, right? Those types of freedom. So they're two totally different types of things. Not that one is right or wrong, but they're just different. So the next thing I would like to just go through here, and the reason that I'm going to focus on what it really looks like to be an entrepreneur in real estate and kind of go into it in more depth is because once again, I hear a lot of people talk about, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to be an entrepreneur. I got into real estate to be an entrepreneur. So I just want to say, okay, here's what it actually looks like to be an entrepreneur in real estate. Number one, as an entrepreneur, we have to identify opportunities. So nobody's coming to us and saying, hey, here's the opportunity, go execute on it, and here's your parameters, and here's the rule book, and here's what you need to do. No, we have to have our antenna up. We have to have a vision for where we're going, and then find the opportunity, and then figure out how to execute on it, whether we bring other people in or we do it ourselves. And so that in and of itself, that's a big project. And it takes a lot of thought. It takes a lot of internal work. It takes a lot of vision. And so we're always entrepreneurs are always looking for ways to innovate, has a big vision, and we don't have the luxury of waiting for someone to bring that opportunity to us. Number two, this is a huge one, takes initiative. So there's a difference between, hey, you need to go enter these numbers over here versus if I don't enter these numbers over here, my business fails, right? And we take that initiative. And so once we identify what the opportunity is, we have to take initiative as an entrepreneur. Nobody's going to hold our hand. Nobody is going to force us to do it. Nobody is going to, pat us on the back if we do good. We have to just get up and go do it. And that is really difficult to do. Who's ever woken up on a Monday morning saying, I don't feel like working today? And so you just take the day off. We all have. But as an entrepreneur, you lose that luxury. You have to take initiative. You find that vision, you go after it. Action over perfection. Done is better than perfect, right? Initiative is about moving first, seeing what happens, getting a result, and then analyzing that result, being willing to fail and get your teeth kicked in because you know that failure is more valuable than trying to create something perfect without experience. Experience comes first, perfection comes later. Well, perfection probably never really comes, but you get what I'm saying. So entrepreneurs have to take initiative, which is, I think, the biggest hurdle for people when it comes to entrepreneurship is, I don't feel like working on Monday. I'm just going to take Monday off, and then I'm going to go slow on Tuesday, and then Wednesday I'm behind, so I feel bad about myself, and then Thursday, and eventually we take some initiative. No, every day you got to wake up and take initiative. Assumes the risk associated with creating, growing, and managing a business or project. So this all comes from that definition that I read earlier. So an entrepreneur has to assume the risk with everything that's being created. And so this is another one that's really hard for a lot of people to swallow. There is no big reward without a big risk. And so entrepreneurs don't wait for a clear path. They don't wait for the proven path that has already been done and then they start walking on it. And they say, here's an opportunity here that nobody's capitalizing on. I'm going to take initiative and start walking down this path that is not clear. I don't know exactly what needs to happen. I'm going to build this plane as I fly it, and I'm going to assume all the risk. I'm going to get kicked in the teeth. I'm going to have the wins. I'm going to, learn from the failures, and I'm going to learn from the wins. But I'm going to assume all of that risk, and I'm going to take personal responsibility for every single thing that happens. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. It's not impossible, but it's hard to do. And it can be a deterrent from really being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs are driven by innovation. So, problem solving, the desire to make ideas tangible so that other people can utilize them or so we can have some kind of impact or whatever. Entrepreneurs want to innovate. They want to do things differently. For me, when I see things that are operating less than effective or efficient and it's clear to me that it just doesn't make sense, it drives me freaking crazy. And I want to change it. I'm like, how can I make this better? Right? That's that drive to innovate. And by the way, if you don't have that and you're like, man, I wish I had a drive to innovate, it's something that can be learned. It's what are you good at? What do you know? What could you teach others, right? That's an area where you could innovate. So just start without expecting a clear pathway for you. Just start innovating. Assume the risk. They're resourceful and adaptable and resilient. So resourceful means, there's a problem and I will find a way to solve it. I might not know how to solve it yet, but I am going to figure out how to solve it. I'm going to find the people that I need to find. I'm going to find the resources that I need to find. It's not, okay, there's a problem. I need someone else to go fix it for me. I need someone to give me the answers. I need someone to find the solution. No, it is a sense of like, this is, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That's a Psy thing. If any of you have been in Psy, you don't have to have all the answers, but you have to be willing to go find all of the answers. If I don't know, I will figure it out. When I was a middle school science teacher, I was teaching in a district where there was a lot of literal rocket scientists as parents because we live next to Lockheed Martin. And they would come into my science class and they would ask these ridiculous questions. And I finally got really good at saying, I have no idea, but we'll talk tomorrow and I'll have an answer for you. That's that resourcefulness and that adaptability, being resilient, not letting the challenges keep you down. Embracing challenges, right? There's a difference between struggling through a challenge and embracing a challenge. Entrepreneurs embrace the challenge. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. It's in the uncomfortable that we grow. It's in the uncomfortable that we break through to the other side, right? Most people stop at the comfort level. Entrepreneurs push through that. That's why they look like visionaries, because they're willing to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. They like the challenge. They like the pressure and they embrace it. This one's maybe the most important and one that I struggle with, and I think we all struggle with: learning from failure. A failure is not a failure unless we let the failure stop us. And sometimes a failure means, hey, that was stupid. Maybe you should do it this way. So maybe we do stop that, but we keep moving forward in some direction. We take that failure and we learn from it. We take that victory and we learn from it. And entrepreneurs know that the bad is not as bad as we think it is, and the good is not as good as we think it is. They're all just opportunities to help move us towards a long-term vision. It's all part of the journey. And so failure is not a breaking point. It's an opportunity to break through. And then continuously seeks ways to improve their ventures. Oftentimes this means internally and externally, right? Lifelong learners. They live in their vision. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to do a sweat lodge, which is really, I'm very, very grateful to have that opportunity. And the the person who was leading it, he was Cherokee. He was talking about how he believes so much in what he's doing, and you could just feel it. Like he lived in his vision. He wants to make this kind of thing more accessible for more people, and you could just feel it. Right? That's a visionary. That's an entrepreneur. He's a lifelong learner. He wants to figure out how to make this better. He is very uncomfortable, but he's pushing through all of that. And so you can just tell he's constantly seeking ways to improve. To me, that was very inspirational. So just to summarize all of this, we're not kidding ourselves here. Being an entrepreneur is extremely difficult. So if we want to be an entrepreneur, we have to be okay with all that stuff. Right? It's the yin and the yang. If you want the big giant pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, then you better be willing to walk through all the thorn bushes to get there. Because that's what it takes to be a true entrepreneur. So we can't, I guess we can, but the problem as I see it is when we say we're an entrepreneur and we want the results of an entrepreneur, but we're doing the work of an employee, and then we're discontented by the fact that we don't have the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's where the real problem arises. And so if you're not good with doing all that stuff that it takes to be an entrepreneur, no problem. No problem. It just means that it might be time to adjust the expectations of the outcomes. If you want a more predictable lifestyle, great. There's opportunities to do that within real estate. But you might not have those giant organizations or teams or, massive years where you're making $500,000 or whatever it is. But you have predictability. There's value in that. So ultimately, it's not that one's better than the other. It's about understanding what resonates with you and then accepting the effort and results that come from how you operate. So pain, discomfort, disillusionment, as I see it in this business, comes from unrealistic expectations of being able to act like an employee, but receiving the benefits of being an entrepreneur, if that makes sense. So I guess really what I'm getting at here is if you want to be happy in this business, we've got to become clear about what it is that we really want and what we're willing to put into it, and then become comfortable and satisfied with the results that we create. Because the results that we create are a direct reflection of how we're operating. So there's really no reason to ever be discontented by the results that we're creating. However, they can be a mile marker for us and say, hey, you want to do more, remember? And we go, oh, yeah. Okay, great. And we reset what our expectations are, both for how hard we're willing to work or what we're willing to put into it, how much risk we're willing to take, and the rewards that we want to see. And so once again, that's why I'm so passionate about this subject. I know so many of us got into this business because we want to experience freedom. And it's right in front of you. Real estate's freaking awesome. We can create whatever in the hell we want. That's what's so cool about it. And so I want that for you. I want you to experience that freedom. I want you to be happy in your job. I want you to stay in real estate. Just set those expectations so you can go out there, kill it, and experience freedom now, not 10 years in the future, but now. So that's all I got for today. I'll stay on for a minute if anybody has any questions, but I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.